Pause here for a moment, because what you are about to hear was not meant to pass by you like ordinary words. Something has been moving behind closed doors, behind quiet faces, behind conversations you were never invited into, and yet heaven heard every sentence. You were not there when your name was spoken, but your spirit felt it. You may have wondered why the air around you changed, why certain emotions returned suddenly, why your heart became restless without a clear reason. It is because something connected to your destiny was discussed in a room where your presence was absent, but your energy was impossible to ignore. Listen closely, because this is not a message of fear. This is a message of unveiling. There are moments when heaven allows hidden matters to rise to the surface slowly, not to disturb your peace, but to prepare your soul for what is coming. And this time, the revelation concerns someone whose heart has been tied to yours in a way that even they have struggled to explain. Your soulmate's family had a meeting about you, and what was spoken there carried more weight than anyone expected. At first, it did not begin dramatically. No one entered the room shouting your name. No one declared that everything must change. It began with a silence. A strange silence. The kind of silence that falls when people already know the truth but are afraid of saying it first. There was a heaviness in that place, not because of hatred, but because your name has become a mirror. And when your name entered that conversation, people who thought they understood the situation suddenly realized there was much more happening beneath the surface. One person tried to speak lightly, as if your connection was just another passing emotion, just another chapter that time would erase. But their words did not settle. They floated in the room like smoke, weak and uncertain. Because deep down, everyone there knew this was not ordinary. They knew your soulmate had changed. They knew something in their eyes, their choices, their silence, and their behavior had shifted since your energy entered their life. And even the ones who tried to deny it could not deny the evidence standing right in front of them. Your soulmate has not been the same. Their family noticed it before your soulmate could explain it. They noticed the way they became distant at unexpected moments. They noticed how their laughter sometimes stopped suddenly, as if a memory of you entered the room without warning. They noticed how their patience grew thin around people who once influenced them easily. They noticed how your soulmate began questioning old patterns, old expectations, old loyalties, and old fears. And child, that is what shook them. Because your presence did not simply touch the heart of your soulmate, it began disturbing the structure around them. There are people who become uncomfortable when love awakens truth. Not because love is wrong, but because truth rearranges everything. When someone finally starts seeing clearly, those who benefited from their confusion begin to panic quietly. And in that meeting, some were not only talking about you, they were talking about what you represent. They were talking about the change they can no longer control. One voice in that room said something that made the atmosphere shift. They said your soulmate is different because of you. But the way they said it was not simple. It was not just an observation. It carried concern, surprise, and something close to surrender. Because they have watched your soulmate fight feelings, hide emotions, pretend to move forward, act strong, act detached, act unaffected. But behind all of that, they saw the truth. Your soulmate may have tried to convince others that they were fine, but their family saw the signs. And heaven saw more. Heaven saw the nights your soulmate stayed awake with your memory pressing against their chest. Heaven saw the moments they checked something connected to you and then put the phone down quickly, as if even looking too long would expose them to themselves. Heaven saw them defending you in ways they did not fully understand, even when they had no reason to speak. Heaven saw them becoming emotional over small reminders. A song, a place, a phrase, a time of day, a name that sounded like yours, a feeling that arrived without permission. And now, those hidden signs have reached the people around them. Do not think this meeting happened randomly. In the spiritual realm, nothing connected to destiny moves without timing. This conversation was allowed because a certain pressure has been building. Your soulmate's heart has been carrying more than it has confessed. Their family has been sensing more than they have admitted. And now, what was once quietly ignored has become too loud to dismiss. There was a moment in that meeting when someone asked a question that no one answered immediately. The question was simple, but it cut deep. They asked why your soulmate still reacts whenever your name, your memory, or your situation comes up. Why does their energy change? Why does their mood shift? Why do they become defensive, silent, distracted, or emotional? Why does something about you still have the power to enter the room even when you are not there? That question opened a door. And once it opened, the truth began walking in. Someone admitted that your soulmate has been hiding pain. Someone else admitted they had noticed regret. Another person mentioned that your soulmate speaks differently now, as if they are carrying unfinished words. And then there was a pause so deep that even the ones who doubted began to understand. This was not just attraction. This was not just memory. This was not just a passing connection. Something spiritual had been disturbed. Your soulmate's family may not use the language of angels. They may not say destiny. They may not say divine timing. They may not understand soul contracts, spiritual mirrors, or heaven's hidden work. But even without those words, they felt the weight of something sacred. They felt that your presence in your soulmate's life had revealed a truth no one could neatly explain. And child, this is where the message becomes personal. You thought you were being forgotten. You thought perhaps your absence made things easier for them. You thought maybe they were surrounded by people who helped them move on, laugh, forget, and replace what they felt. But heaven says no. Your absence did not erase you. Your absence exposed the size of your presence. Sometimes people do not understand the value of a soul until that soul stops standing in front of them. Sometimes the room only realizes the light after the light has gone quiet. Your soulmate's family is beginning to see that you were not the problem in the way some may have believed. They are beginning to understand that something about you brought out a deeper version of your soulmate. Maybe it frightened them. Maybe it challenged old beliefs. Maybe it made certain people question whether they had judged too quickly. But the truth is rising now, and it is not rising softly. One person in that meeting remembered something your soulmate had said before. A sentence, a confession, a small emotional slip they probably thought no one noticed. But someone remembered. And when that memory was brought up, the room changed again. Because your soulmate's words from the past suddenly made sense in the present. A feeling they had tried to bury was still alive. A bond they had tried to explain away was still moving. And a decision they may have made under pressure was now beginning to look different in the eyes of those around them. This is why heaven is telling you to remain still in spirit. Not passive. Not powerless. Still. There is a difference. Stillness is not weakness. Stillness is when your soul refuses to chase what heaven is already moving. Stillness is when you stop begging for a door that divine truth is already unlocking from the other side. And something is being unlocked. You may not see it yet. You may not hear the apology yet. You may not receive the message yet. You may not witness the full turn yet. But behind the veil, a shift has started. The meeting was not the end. It was the beginning of a chain reaction. Once your name was spoken with seriousness, something began moving through minds, hearts, and hidden guilt. There is someone in that family who sees you more clearly than you think. This person may not have said everything aloud, but their spirit resisted the unfairness. They felt there was another side to the story. They felt your heart had been misunderstood. They felt your soulmate's behavior did not match someone who had truly let go. And quietly, without making themselves the center, they began holding space for truth. This person may become important, not because they will save the connection. Heaven does not need human permission to fulfill divine alignment. But this person may become a witness to what was hidden, a witness to what was denied, a witness to the fact that your impact was real. And sometimes, child, one witness in the right room can shift an entire conversation. In that meeting, there were mixed emotions. Some were protective, some were skeptical, some were afraid of change, some were worried about reputation, timing, family expectations, past wounds, or future consequences. But beneath every argument, one truth kept returning like a heartbeat: your soulmate has not been able to disconnect from you the way they claimed. That is the part that shocked them. Because they may have believed distance would solve everything. They may have believed silence would make the bond fade. They may have believed distraction would turn love into memory. But instead, silence created reflection. Distance created realization. Time created evidence. And now the people around your soulmate are beginning to ask questions that your soulmate can no longer avoid forever. Why do they still care? Why do they still react? Why do they still protect your name in subtle ways? Why does the mention of your future make something in them uneasy? Why do they seem both drawn and afraid? Why does your absence feel like a presence? These questions are not small. They are arrows. And once heaven releases arrows of truth, they do not miss the heart. My child, there was also a hidden fear in that room. A fear that your soulmate may choose differently than expected. A fear that the path they were being guided toward might not be the path others wanted for them. A fear that if your soulmate finally listens to their heart, certain plans, opinions, and assumptions will collapse. This is why the energy around this meeting was intense. It was not merely about love. It was about control losing its grip. Someone has been trying to influence your soulmate's choices. Not always with cruelty. Sometimes influence comes wrapped in concern. Sometimes pressure sounds like advice. Sometimes fear disguises itself as wisdom. But heaven sees the difference between love that guides and fear that controls. And your soulmate has been standing between those two forces. They have heard voices around them. They have heard opinions. They have heard warnings. They have heard reminders of what should be practical, acceptable, safe, or convenient. But then, in the quiet, they have heard something else. Your soul. Not loudly, not dramatically, just deeply. A pull they cannot fully silence. And that pull has begun to expose the truth. There are feelings your soulmate never fully explained to their family because they were afraid of being judged. There are moments they kept private because the emotions were too vulnerable. There are memories of you that they protected like hidden letters inside their spirit. But when love is real, it leaves traces. Even when someone tries to cover it, the people closest to them eventually see the outline. They saw the outline. They saw the hesitation when decisions were discussed. They saw the discomfort when someone suggested moving on completely. They saw the way your soulmate's face changed when your name became part of the conversation. And child, one of them, noticed something very specific. They noticed that your soulmate did not respond like someone irritated by you. They responded like someone wounded by love, confused by timing, and afraid of what their heart still knows. That detail mattered. Because irritation passes quickly. Pride speaks loudly. Anger burns and then fades. But love mixed with regret creates a different silence. It creates a silence that sits heavy in the chest. A silence that makes the eyes look away. A silence that makes the room feel suddenly smaller. And that silence entered the meeting. Heaven wants you to understand this carefully. This message is not saying that everything will unfold exactly according to your expectations. Divine movement is deeper than human fantasy. It is not about forcing someone to choose you. It is not about waiting helplessly for another person to validate your worth. No, beloved. This is about truth. It is about the hidden reality of a bond being brought into light. It is about heaven correcting what was misunderstood, unseen, or prematurely judged. Your worth was never on trial, but some people acted as if it was. Your heart was never something cheap, but some may have handled it carelessly. Your presence was never random, but some may have dismissed it because they did not understand its purpose. Now, the same energy they tried to minimize is becoming impossible to ignore. There was a part of the meeting where your soulmate's future was discussed. Plans, choices, direction, what should happen next, who should be included, what should be avoided. And when those future plans were spoken, your name returned again, not always directly, but spiritually. Because even when they tried to discuss life without you, the absence of you became part of the discussion. That is powerful. To be absent and still shape the conversation means your soul has weight there. To be silent and still create questions means your energy has not left. To be unseen and still remembered means heaven has preserved your place in a way no human could erase. And this is where your spirit must be strengthened. Because when hidden things begin moving, the first sign is often not proof. It is pressure. You may feel emotional waves. You may dream more intensely. You may think of them suddenly. You may feel something unfinished rising in your chest. You may sense that a conversation is coming, but you do not know when or how. That is because the spiritual atmosphere around this connection is stirring. Do not confuse stirring with chaos. Heaven stirs waters before healing. Heaven shakes foundations before rebuilding. Heaven brings discomfort before clarity. The meeting was part of the shaking. Your soulmate may feel exposed now, even if they have not told you. They may feel watched by their own family in a way that makes them uncomfortable. They may realize that their inner conflict is no longer fully hidden. This can make them defensive at first. They may act colder for a moment. They may become quieter. They may pretend nothing happened. But beneath that surface, a deeper confrontation is happening. They are being confronted by what they feel. They are being confronted by what they denied. They are being confronted by the difference between the story they told others and the truth they carry inside. And heaven says the truth inside them is louder than the story. There is a reason your soul needed to hear this now. You have been through moments where you questioned whether you imagined the connection. You questioned whether your intuition was misleading you. You questioned whether the signs meant anything. You questioned why you could feel so much while seeing so little. And heaven is answering not by giving you fantasy, but by revealing movement. Something has been discussed. Something has been admitted. Something has been noticed. Something has shifted. You are not crazy for feeling a change in the atmosphere. You are not weak for sensing unfinished energy. You are not foolish for knowing that some bonds do not disappear just because people choose silence. But you are also being called to rise higher. Because the revelation is not meant to pull you back into anxiety. It is meant to pull you forward into strength. Your soulmate's family having a meeting about you does not mean you must wait at the window of your life. It means heaven is showing you that your presence had impact. It means what was hidden is no longer sleeping as deeply as before. It means the next movement may come from places you did not expect. One of the most shocking parts of that meeting was not what they said about you. It was what they realized about themselves. Some began to see that they had formed opinions without the full truth. Some began to wonder whether they had influenced things too heavily. Some began to recognize that your soulmate's unhappiness, confusion, or emotional distance may not be random. It may be connected to a decision that was never fully aligned with their heart. That realization is dangerous to false narratives, because once people begin questioning the story loses power. And there was a story about you, perhaps not always spoken openly, but carried in fragments. A story that made your role smaller than it was. A story that made your emotions look inconvenient. A story that made the connection seem less sacred than it felt. A story that helped others feel comfortable with distance. But now cracks are forming in that story. Through those cracks, truth is entering. Heaven is not rushing this because the truth must land deeply. If it comes too fast, pride will reject it. If it comes with force, fear will resist it. So heaven is moving through subtle moments. A remembered sentence. A sudden question. A look across the room. A pause after your name. A confession spoken halfway. A silence that says more than words. This is how divine revelation often begins. Not with thunder, but with discomfort no one can explain. Your soulmate's family may have thought the meeting was about deciding something, but in the spiritual realm, it was about exposing something. The conversation revealed where people stood. It revealed who was still resistant. It revealed who had compassion. It revealed who understood more than they said. It revealed that your soulmate's heart is not as settled as they may pretend. And child, heaven wants you to pay attention to the phrase, not settled. Because this is not a closed book. It may look closed from the outside. The cover may appear shut. The pages may seem still. But heaven says there is a bookmark inside. Something stopped before it was completed. Something paused before it reached its conclusion. Something was interrupted, not erased. That is why the meeting happened. When a story is truly over, people do not keep gathering around its shadow. When a name has no meaning, it does not create tension. When a connection has no power, it does not require discussion. But your name carried enough presence to bring people into concern, curiosity, reflection, and hidden fear. This should not make you proud in an ego way. It should make you aware in a spiritual way. Your energy mattered. Your love left an imprint. Your absence revealed truth. Your silence became a witness. Still, there is more. The most important person in that meeting may not have been the loudest. It may have been the one who listened quietly. The one who watched your soulmate's reaction. The one who noticed the tremble beneath the surface. The one who realized that this situation is not only about family opinion, but about a soul wrestling with destiny. That person is carrying a thought now. A thought they may not have shared yet. A thought like, maybe we were wrong about this. Maybe there is more to this person than we understood. Maybe the connection affected them because it was real. Maybe pushing against it only made the pain deeper. And once that thought enters one heart, heaven can use it. You may soon notice indirect signs. Not necessarily dramatic ones. Perhaps someone becomes softer. Perhaps your soulmate's energy changes. Perhaps a conversation opens unexpectedly. Perhaps a message comes through a strange path. Perhaps you hear something that confirms your intuition. Perhaps you simply wake up with a deep knowing that the atmosphere has shifted. Do not dismiss the small signs. Heaven often begins with small signs because small signs test whether you are listening from fear or faith. But there is also a warning wrapped in love. Do not let this revelation make you chase. Do not run toward closed doors just because you hear movement behind them. Let heaven complete what heaven has started. Your part is not to force the meeting's outcome. Your part is to remain aligned, healed, awake, and ready for truth in whatever form it arrives. Because when truth comes, it may not arrive exactly the way your emotions expect. It may come as an apology. It may come as a confession. It may come as an explanation. It may come as a choice. It may come as closure that frees you. It may come as restoration that surprises everyone. But whatever comes, it will require you to be grounded enough to receive it without losing yourself. That is why this message is being given now. Heaven is preparing you before the visible change. Your soulmate's family meeting was a sign that the private has begun to become collective. What your soulmate once carried alone is now affecting the people around them. What they tried to bury is creating questions. What they tried to hide is leaking through behavior. And what they tried to decide with the mind is being challenged by the heart. There was one sentence spoken in that meeting that heaven wants to bring close to your spirit. Not because it was perfectly kind. Not because it was fully understood. But because it revealed the turning point. Someone said, in their own way, that your soulmate cannot keep living divided, cannot keep saying one thing and feeling another, cannot keep pretending peace while carrying unrest, cannot keep allowing others to define what only their soul can answer. That sentence did something. It landed. Maybe your soulmate looked away. Maybe they stayed silent. Maybe they became defensive. Maybe they tried to change the subject. But it landed. And when truth lands in the soul, it does not leave quickly. Since that moment, their spirit has been restless. They may not admit it. They may distract themselves. They may act normal. But something inside them keeps replaying the conversation. Your name. The questions. The looks. The things said. The things not said. The realization that others can see what they have been trying to hide. And now heaven is moving in that restlessness. Restlessness is not always punishment. Sometimes it is divine mercy. Sometimes heaven makes a soul uncomfortable in the wrong place so they can no longer ignore the right path. Sometimes the heart becomes uneasy not because everything is falling apart, but because everything false is losing its ability to comfort. Your soulmate is being brought to a mirror. And child, mirrors do not argue. They reveal. They reveal the love behind pride. They reveal regret behind silence. They reveal fear behind excuses. They reveal longing behind distance. They reveal truth behind performance. This mirror was placed in front of them through the meeting. Their family may not realize they were part of a spiritual process, but they were. Heaven can use ordinary rooms for extraordinary awakenings. Heaven can use family conversations as instruments of revelation. Heaven can use human concern to expose divine truth. And the shocking part is this: the meeting did not weaken your place. It confirmed it. Even those who resisted had to acknowledge that you are still part of the emotional equation. Even those who questioned the connection had to admit your soulmate is affected. Even those who preferred silence had to sit with the fact that silence has not solved anything. Something remains. Something unresolved. Something alive beneath the ashes. And heaven is not finished. As this part of the message closes, understand this: the meeting was only the outer scene. The deeper meeting is happening now inside your soulmate's soul. Their heart, their fear, their pride, their memories, their family's words, and heaven's quiet pressure are all sitting at one table within them. A decision is forming there. A realization is rising there. A confession is approaching the edge of their spirit. But there is one detail from that family meeting that has not yet been fully revealed. One person said something near the end that caused your soulmate to freeze inside, even if no one noticed on the outside. And that sentence was not about the past. It was about what may happen next.